welcome to my channel. Today's video I thought I would take you through the 5 products that are in my accessible base, which is the only exception to my no by year rules, and I'm going to just share why I have chosen the 5 products that I've chosen. I'm also going to put them on my face and show you how I use them. And this is hopefully the first or second video. I'm filming this before I film sort of the intro to a series that's just going to span however long it takes, with a video here and there. It's more disability focused. I am disabled. I have multiple chronic illnesses, which makes living a little bit challenging, but one of the things that I really like doing is putting on makeup, which is why this channel exists. It's why I have so much. But sometimes and some days makeup is difficult. I've purposely chosen today to do this because I'm not having the best day. I am fatigued today, I'm tired, and I'm also in, I call it moderate amount of pain, but my hands are hurting, so is my back, so I have to be a bit careful when filming. I'm sort of propped up against like 6 pillows here, and I hope it's going to be fine. But I want to talk you through the products in here, why I have chosen them, how I use them when I put them on, and just chat a bit. When I'm not filming and using these products as like the base for makeup, this takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to do. It's probably going to take a bit longer today because I'm going to be talking through the process as well. And it also takes a little bit longer when I'm in pain because I can't work as quickly as I normally do. But it's fine, I can work with it, and that's what I'm going to do. I think I should just introduce you to the 5 products if you haven't seen my no by year intro video. I'm on a no by year this year, and I'm not allowed to buy makeup unless I either finish a category or get the category to its goal number, whichever comes first. For some categories of makeup I don't mind having more than 1 item in them, but with others I'd prefer to have only 1 or 2, and I'm not allowed to buy anything into that category unless I have that category to under its goal or at 0, with the exception of 5 products. And for me those 5 products are what I've called my accessible base. It is makeup that for me is easy to use and it's quick to put on, and it gives me a base to put colour cosmetics on. So for me what I chose was a primer, a powder foundation, a brow pencil, a brow gel and a mascara. That to me gives me a base, and I can put eyeshadow with it, I can put cheek products with it, I can do lipstick if I want to, or I can just leave it at those 5. And I don't always use the 5 either. Sometimes I pick only a couple of them depending on what I want and also how I'm feeling. But the 5 products are the Fenty Pro Filt'r Face Primer. This is my favourite primer and that's why it was chosen. I also chose this because it's the primer I found that works the best with the powder foundation that I have. And the powder foundation I have is from Mecca. It's the Hello Pretty. I have the shade Marshmallow and mine is well loved. I've hit decent sized pan in this and I go through a couple of these a year because I use them a lot. But I picked this because this gives me both coverage like foundation and concealer whilst also setting it in place. And I don't have to use 2 products to get what I can get in one with this, and it lasts a decent amount. This isn't the most long wearing base product I own. It gives me about 4 to 6 hours before it starts looking very shiny and starts like breaking down a little bit, but 4 to 6 is fairly good for me when I'm having a bad day, because sometimes I just put this on if I'm going to film, sometimes I do it if I'm going to go out and just eat with like family and stuff, and I don't need like 12 hours of wear. I can wear it for 12 hours, it doesn't break off my face, I just get very shiny and I have to powder with a separate powder, but it's fine, it's workable. I've also chosen this because it gives me medium coverage, but it still lets my skin look like skin. It is a powder, so it does look like I'm wearing makeup, but I don't think, on me, this doesn't look super heavy. You might think it looks heavy on me. You know, we all have different preferences. For me, this is acceptable. I like wearing it because it doesn't look too bad. For my brow pencil, I have chosen the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in Auburn. It's my favourite. I repurchased this many times now, and the reason I've chosen Auburn is because I like to match my hair, and I'm naturally blonde and I dye it into this sort of auburny, orangey, rusty colour, and I love it. And I want my eyebrows to match. My eyebrows on their own are very light. Some of them are invisible because they are literally like that blonde, but those that have some colour, they're sort of this light greyish browny blonde, and I prefer to colour it in, and this has been the best colour for what I want. It's the most orange and I find it's the one that I like the best. It suits my hair the best. and I also find this very easy to use. My only downside with this is that it's very slim. It's tiny, and on days like today when my hands are hurting, one of the things that I struggle with is grip. I can't really hold anything very well. It's going to be a challenge using this, but we'll get through it, and if I can't use it, it's fine. That's the days when I just don't do anything with my brows. The three first products are the only one where I have a specific product in sort of the place of the accessible base. So I'm allowed to buy these three, but only these three as my accessible base exception. The other two products, which is a brow gel that holds my brows in place and a mascara that holds a curl, is more open because I struggle with mascaras holding a curl. My lashes are naturally fairly straight and point a little bit downwards. So if I don't curl my lashes and put mascara on, it looks a bit sad and I don't like it. So I curl my lashes and I want a mascara that can hold that curl. I've at the moment only got three, I say 3.5, that do that, and I've tried at least 50 at this point. I've tried a lot of them and I only have 3 that do. The one I'm currently using, it's Tarte Lights Camera Splashes. I like this a lot. I've used this for a couple of years, sort of on and off, and I really like it. It holds my lashes up. It doesn't clump them together. It gives me length and volume, but it can be a little bit difficult to remove. I have found that pretty much only waterproof mascara holds my lashes up, so I am okay with a little bit of a fight to get them off. But I found using a two-toned makeup remover or a makeup removing oil does the job fairly well, and I don't have to fight with it. But it stays on through anything and I like it. It also doesn't transfer onto my brow one because I have long lashes, so when I curl them I actually have them touching up at my brow. This doesn't transfer up there when it dries. It can sometimes transfer a little bit on the lower lashes if I don't set my concealer underneath there, if I'm doing a no powder makeup. But for the most part it doesn't transfer, and I know when that happens that I tend to put just a tiny bit of powder just in the outer corner, and it's perfectly fine and I like it a lot. For the brow gel, I have one that I prefer, and it's the NYX Control Freak. I don't have that at the moment because I finished it earlier the year, but I have two at the moment that I can work with and that do the job fairly well. The one I'm going to use today is Makeup Mecca Easy Peasy Brow Gel in the colour Neutral. It's my second favourite and I like it. It has a little bit of a tint to it. It doesn't hold my most stubborn brows up as well, but it does the job fairly well overall. And I'm now going to take a 5-minute break because my back is hurting, so I will be back and I'm going to put my hair up and then I'm going to show you how I put these on my face. If you see me looking down here, I have a mirror sitting in my lap here. It's going to be easier than having to hold a small one because I'm just going to drop that today. But I'm going to begin with the Fenty primer. And what I do with this is I put 2 to 3 dots on the back of my hand. It's enough to cover my face, and then I tend to just dot it on, and I tend to start dotting it where I want the majority of the product to be, which for me is the nose, the chin and the cheeks. I put the majority of this where I have texture. So I have texture from breakouts around my mouth as well as onto my cheeks. And around my nose and cheekbones there is some dryness that I like to not accentuate. And what I do is just smooth this into the skin. I put the least amount of product onto my forehead because that's where I have the least amount of texture. And then I take any remaining thing just underneath my eyes, because I have lines under my eyes, and I find just adding a little bit of this helps my makeup sit nicer around those, that it doesn't crease into them as much. And then I take my powder foundation, and I like to use a brush that is a little bit dense but has some give. So this is an Isadora brush, and it's a little bit angled. That doesn't really matter, but it has a little bit of give in the bristles, but it's still fairly dense, and I like that. So what I do is I dip my product in and make sure that I'm coating all of the bristles. This does kick up product, so I just tap off any excess back into the pan, and then I stipple this onto my face. I tend to start at my forehead or at my cheeks, it doesn't really matter where I begin. But I pick up product, tap off, and then just stamp on. I don't like buffing this product in. I find that just doesn't look the nicest on me. So I prefer to just stamp, and I tend to go over a couple of times because the place where I first stamp gets the most product, and then I just blend it out by going over multiple times. And this is a tiny bit dark for me, so I do take it a little bit down my neck, but if you see a colour difference from my face to my neck, don't worry about it. This is the closest match I have, and this is the lightest shade that they have, and it does the trick enough, so I don't really mind that it is a little bit too dark. And this gives me, I say, about medium coverage. I can build it up, but I never get like full coverage with this, and I find if I have any areas where I want full coverage, I tend to put a concealer underneath. But for the most part, I don't really mind a little bit of redness showing through, whether it is from breakouts or just because my cheeks are naturally very red. I don't really care. And then for my eye area, I literally just go over the eyelid as well as under the eyes, and I try to get everything. I sometimes get some lines in the inner corner because I end up squinting a little bit when I go over, but I try to avoid those and just smooth them out. But I want to give myself a blank canvas, so I just go everywhere. And that's that. On a good day, doing the primer and the powder foundation, I can do it in as quick as about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. So it's a quick base, which is what I want it to be. I'm not going to rush any of my steps today because pain and fatigue and rushing and stressing makes everything worse. So we're going to take it easy. But once that is done, I go on to my eyebrows. And sometimes if I am unsure if I'm going to fill them in entirely or not, I will take a Q-tip with a little bit of either micellar water, or I will just lick it and just go over and get rid of any excess powder buildup, because I do get powder into my eyebrows. Today I'm not going to bother with that because I can't be asked. So I'm just going to go right in with my brow pencil. I take both ends off at the same time, and I have a tray next to me. I put them on there, and then I just twist up a little bit. I don't twist up a lot because this can break off if you put too much pressure. But I start by brushing my brows. That does get rid of some of the excess powder buildup, and I am going to be holding this Colourpop palette as a smaller mirror because otherwise I'm going to be over here and you can't see me. So when I do my eyebrows, I like to be as close to my mirror as I can possibly get. A lot of that is just because my eyebrows aren't even, so I have to fill them in and try and make them look the same. Doesn't always work that well, so we're going to see how today ends up. I'm going to put that down there, so if I'm looking down I have my mirror right below the camera, but I can't hold that today. It just ends up being too shaky. I also normally can't talk whilst I do my brows, so I am going to talk you through it once I am done, and my voice is just going to be on screen now telling you what I'm doing whilst I'm doing it. But after brushing them through, I tend to fill out the bottom, and then I give them another brush. For me, the bottom line is something that I have to be cautious about because I have hairs on this brow, my left, that isn't there on the right, especially right here. I have a little bald spot on the bottom side of my brow, and I like to get my bottom line fairly straight with a little bit of an arch at the end, and I try to do that to both brows so that I know that I'm getting them even, or at least a little bit even. And if I overdraw, I just use my finger. I start by drawing the bottom line, and I do that, sometimes I do one brow at a time, sometimes I do both of them. Today I ended up drawing the bottom line on both just to make sure that I was somewhat even. Like that. I could leave them like this, I'm not going to. What I do then is I start at the tail, and I start just drawing from the top down in little strokes, and then I work my way back to the front of the brow. I leave a little gap where I start again at the front and I go upwards, and it looks a bit messy at first, but I just go over with my fingers at the edges, essentially just blending it out. And all I want to do is really just tint the skin behind or underneath my brows, because I still want my brows to be visible, my hairs to be visible, so I don't want to overdraw. I sometimes do a little bit of overdrawing on this brow because I have more sparse areas at the end here. And once I have the rough shape, I go back in and fill in the middle part of the brow, and I also tidy up the edges, get it looking as even as I can. And it takes a bit back and forth, just looking, and I can never get my brows to look the same 2 days in a row, and I can never get both brows to look the same as each other. I sort of just go for as close as I can, and that is good enough for me. On my right brow, I mostly struggle with the bottom line of it. The top half is fairly easy and straightforward, and on the other brow it's the opposite. The bottom is easy but the top is not. On my left brow, my hair tends to want to just cling together in like the middle here. They don't want to be brushed up and they don't stay brushed up. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get today, and I'm not going to fight anymore with them. It turned out surprisingly well. What I do then is I take a brow gel and I just set them. I brush my brows mostly upwards in the front part, but then towards the end here I tend to brush them a little bit outwards, like not straight up but a little bit more out towards the hair. And then I tend to brush down a little bit at the tail, otherwise it just looks a bit too messy for what I like. And this Mecca one is also tinted. It has a slight tint, so I have to be careful not to get it outside of my brows because then I have to clean up the edge, and I don't like that. My left brow is a little bit harder to get the brow hairs to actually want to go upwards because they like to clump together at the bottom instead. So I just press them towards the skin. And I always find that the tail end on my left brow always looks a little bit messier, but it's okay, it's close enough. And then I just, if I feel like I've gone overboard, I take my pinky and just gently go over the edges. And that's my brow. Now my next step in the accessible base is a mascara, but I am going to put other makeup on, so I'm going to do a fairly simple eye look. I'm going to start with the Colourpop Frozen 2 on a palette, and I'm holding this upside down, middle shade on the top row, and I'm going to put that through my crease as well as on my bottom lash line, and then I take the middle shade on the bottom row and just essentially do the exact same but maintain most of that colour on the outer edges instead. And I'm using a base shadow brush from Real Techniques. I'm not really being super clean with the edges here. I'm also just packing colour onto the brush and then just blending it into the crease, going back and forth. This is one of my favourite brushes to use for eyeshadow because it can both apply shadow and blend it at the same time with minimal work from me, which is nice. What I really do is I just go back and forth like a windshield wiper. And this first colour that I'm using, the top one in the middle, is called Wind. And then I take Fearless and just do the outer corner. Wind is more of a yellow brown. This has a little bit more pink to it, but they work well together. Blend that into the crease. Fearless is just a touch darker. If I want to use just the one shade, I use Wind, and it just gives me exactly what I want, which is just a tiny bit of colour and depth to the crease. It's not a lot of depth, and you're going to have to change what shades you use depending on your skin tone. Because I'm very fair, I can get away with very light colours, but if you have deeper skin tones, you're going to have to use, you know, darker shades, but you can, you know, do your eyeshadow however you do them. And when that is a little bit even. I'm going to take a Super Shock shadow. I'm just using Sundance, which is a rose gold. And I'm just going to plop that onto the lid with my fingers. I really like using the Super Shocks because I find them to be easy to apply because you can just pop them on with your fingers. But I also find that they are easy to use with a brush. And this just gives me a little bit of glow. And then something you're not seeing, I have a wet wipe next to me. I always have a wet wipe next to me when I do my makeup because I tend to use my fingers whenever I can. I find it easiest and just quicker than a lot of brushes sometimes, especially for eyeshadow. And then I'm going to do mascara. And as I said, I always curl my lashes, so I'm going to do that first. I curl them a couple of times on each side, and I find that I have to do that to make them not look sad and like they point straight down. I am using a No7 Lash Curler and I really like it, but mine is coming to the end of its life, so I'm going to have to buy some new of those pads to put into it, or just a new lash curler in general. But what I tend to do is I tend to put it next to my eye, clamp it, and then tilt it inwards. And it's not painful. It shouldn't be painful. If it's painful, you don't have to do it. You can just stop. And I also clamp it a little bit further out on the lashes, so then I end up giving them a curl. And I saw Alicia from X-Sparkets do this a couple of years ago, and that's when I started doing it. And it works very well for my eyes. And I find doing my brows and curling my lashes and putting mascara on is honestly what takes the longest for me when I do my makeup. I have to be careful that I'm not curling my lashes at the wrong place. I usually spend 2 to 5 minutes just on my brows. Today went exceptionally quick. And then when my lashes are curled and I'm happy, I take my mascara and then I just do it. I start on my right eye and then do my left. And just try not to bump myself in my eye or get it onto my lid. I'm very good at just smearing mascara on my eyelid. And whenever I do that, I just wait until it dries and then I go and get a Q-tip and just poke it off and then reapply the mascara. And if you get mascara anywhere, wait till it dries to take it off, because it's much easier and you're going to avoid smearing a black line on your face. I am also just going to do a little bit on my lower lashes. And I don't dip the wand back into the mascara to do my lower lashes. I just do it with whatever remains. And I find tilting my head back is the easiest way for me to get to the roots of my lashes without poking myself in the eye. Even though I do poke myself in the eye a lot. My hands aren't very coordinated with my face, so I have poked myself in the eye a lot. I also tend to ruin several pair of contact lenses a month by just accidentally jabbing it right into my eye and then essentially tearing the contact lens, and I have to take it out and reapply it. But on this eye, you may be able to see in the outer corner here, the outer lashes, I never really get them. So what I do is I just take off any excess mascara on my fingers. And then just for my cheeks, I'm doing a shimmery blush. I'm using Hot Mama from theBalm on a floofy blush brush. And I tend to focus it mostly on the outer part of the cheek and just blending a little bit down. And I like to apply a lot of blush, so you know, I don't mind if it looks like it's a lot. I like that on me. And then I do a tiny bit on the nose, because why not? It looks cute. I did bring a highlighter with me, but I'm just not going to use it. I don't feel like it. But I am going to show a lipstick. My favourite lip products to wear is the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams. I find them very easy to apply. What I do is just swipe them on and they're there. And then for my lips, I go over the edge with my fingers just to blend it, and I find that to be the the easiest way to do it. And that is how I use my accessible base products. I am considering making a second version of this for products that I use when I don't use powder, because I have gotten more into not setting my face with powder when I'm using makeup, using colour correctors more, and just concealer and like cream cheek products. I might make a version of this video with those once I figure out my thoughts a bit more on this. The reason I made the accessible base is because I deal with fatigue a lot, and fatigue for me is my main symptom that makes it so that I can't really do anything. It's why I spend the majority of any day lying horizontal, either in bed or on the couch, because I don't have the energy to physically sit up anywhere, and I don't have the energy to do things, and moving my hands and holding them up unsupported to reach my face and do my makeup is really heavy and really tiring for me. So I wanted to create something that could give me a base, and I could wear the base on its own, or I could add blush, bronzer, highlighter, lip products, eyeshadow to it if I wanted to. This is the 5 products I selected because I find them to be easy to use, easy to apply. I very rarely mess them up. The only parts that I mess up is my brows. When I have a lot of pain and if I'm stressing about my brows, my hands get shaky, and I already have like slightly shaky hands. It's not too bad right now, but the more I have to hold them up, the more I have to support my arm with my other arm and do a lot of the tiny movements with the wrist, the sideways movements, the up and down. My wrist hate that, and my hands start shaking so bad that I can't even hold anything anymore. That's when I know, okay, we're gonna stop. You're gonna have to have a break if you want to put the brows on. Otherwise, we take them off, brow gel on, and we just leave them. And the only thing I really wish that could be a thing was if this was a bit wider, but I do understand why it is so small. It's because it's the packaging that makes the most sense in terms of how skinny the product is. I am gonna try, because you have those things you can put on pencils to make the grip a little bit bigger. I'm tempted to buy one of those and try to put it on this to see if that can make this easier to hold when I'm having pain in my hands. It might work, otherwise I'm gonna have to buy myself a little pot of like clay dough and just make my own. If there's anything in here that I struggle with, it's the brow pencil because it is so small. Today it went fairly well. I am having some pain in my hands, so I'm surprised it actually went as well as it did. They're not perfect. If I had more energy I would probably clean them up a little bit, especially around the tail end on this brow. It has to do the thing today. It's just got to work, and it is. So I'm not going to fuss more about it. I'm really happy with myself that I actually figured out a way to make makeup accessible for myself, because makeup is something that I do both to pass the time but also because I like putting it on. I find it a relaxing process, minus the pain, and that's my main issue that has made makeup more difficult in the recent years, is because how much pain I am in daily has gone up, and doing my makeup doesn't help, it actually makes it worse. So finding some products like this set of 5 items that make makeup easier to do is a lifesaver, and I'm probably going to make multiple small like little sets of makeup looks that I like and that are easy to do with minimal pain. Whenever I make one I'll probably make a video on it and talk about it, but I'm fairly happy with how today's video went. I'm now going to turn the camera off. I am going to lie down and listen to an audiobook for probably about an hour or so until my head is back on to normal, because I'm starting to get dizzy, and when I get dizzy I also get vision problems, and my vision at the edges are starting to get a bit blurry, which is the sign for me that okay, I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any tips on how to make makeup easier to put on and less painful, any product recommendations, pop them in the comments below. I am always interested, and I will see you again soon. Bye!